Welcome to Godless and Grounded.
There is something interesting about Halloween. Every year when this day comes, many religious groups act uncomfortable. They warn people. They speak against it. They call it evil. They call it ungodly or unholy. They say it opens the door to some dark force. They insist it is dangerous. But when you look closely, Halloween is simply a day where people wear costumes, eat sweets, and enjoy harmless fun. So why does it bother religion so much? It is because Halloween scratches one of the most sensitive areas of religion. Fear. Religion depends on fear to survive. Fear of death. Fear of hell. Fear of punishment. Fear of the unknown. Fear of what happens when life ends. Fear keeps the believer controlled. Fear keeps the believer loyal. And Halloween does something very unexpected. It laughs at fear. On Halloween, people dress as ghosts and monsters not to worship them, but to joke about them, to show they are not afraid. Children run around as witches and skeletons and demons, and nobody collapses. Nothing cursed happens. Life continues. People realize that darkness can be something to laugh about. Religion does not like laughter at fear, because fear is its currency. Think about this. When you were young, what did religion teach you about spirits or unseen beings? It taught you to be scared. It taught you to avoid questions. It taught you to think that your curiosity is dangerous. But Halloween allows curiosity. It says you can play, you can dress, you can explore the idea of death and ghosts and afterlife, but in a playful way. Religion sees this as disrespect, but really, it is simply humans taking power back from fear. Another issue is control. Religion wants to control how people think about death. Death is its strongest topic. Religion claims to have all the answers about what happens after you die. Heaven, hell, judgment. But Halloween takes death and turns it into costume makeup and candy bowls. Suddenly, death is not a sacred topic. It is a theme. It is entertainment. It becomes something humans can talk about openly without a priest guiding the conversation. Religion loses control of the narrative. Halloween also reminds people of something older than organized religion. Humans have always celebrated seasons, the end of harvest, the shift from summer to winter. Long before modern religions, ancient people had festivals to honor nature and cycles of life. Halloween is a trace of those older traditions. That bothers religion because it shows humans were living meaningful spiritual and symbolic lives even before holy books existed. Halloween whispers that religion did not invent culture. People did. And religion does not like reminders that it came later. There is also the idea of personal identity. On Halloween, everyone gets to choose who or what they want to be. You can be a vampire or a king or a ghost or a superhero. You can rewrite yourself for one night. It is symbolic freedom. Religion teaches obedience. Stick to your script. Do not question your place. Halloween says try on another face. Religion says keep your place. Halloween says explore. That is a conflict. We also need to understand that religion tries to maintain a serious tone. Religion uses seriousness to maintain authority. You must speak in a certain tone in a religious place. You must dress in a certain way. You must behave in a certain respectful manner. Humor is considered inappropriate, but humor is powerful. Humor breaks fear. Humor breaks dominance. Halloween is full of humor. Masks, costumes, decorations, jokes about death, jokes about devils. Religion cannot fight humor easily because humor does not submit. Let us think of something simple. If someone is afraid of the dark, and then one day they walk into the dark with a flashlight and see it is just a room with objects, the fear loses power. Halloween is like that flashlight. It lets people walk into the symbolic darkness together, laugh together, and come out fine. Religion prefers fear and isolation, alone with your thoughts, alone with inner terror of judgment. Halloween is public, collective, shared, community-based. Fear becomes small when shared. There is another layer. Religion says that evil is always out there waiting. It says demons are everywhere. It says any contact with the unknown can corrupt you. But on Halloween, people pretend to be demons and nothing corrupts. The world does not end. No supernatural force arrives. So the idea that evil is constantly waiting to attack gets proven false. Not by debate. Not by books. Just by experience. People have fun. They go to sleep. They wake up the next day. Life continues normally. And some people might think, maybe the world is not as dangerous as religion told me. This thought scares religious authority more than anything. Religion also relies on mystery, the idea that there are things you cannot understand, things only a priest or preacher or scholar can tell you. Halloween makes the supernatural simple and accessible. Anyone can be a ghost. Anyone can be a witch. Anyone can play with the idea of the unseen without any spiritual gatekeeper. That takes power away from the religious institution. And there is something even more important. Halloween says imagination belongs to humans. Religion tries to claim imagination belongs to God. Every myth, every story, every supernatural being. Religion tries to say these things are not just stories. They are sacred reality. But Halloween exposes a truth. Humans can invent spirits. Humans can invent monsters. Humans can invent afterlives. Humans can invent entire worlds because humans have imagination, and imagination is ours. Once people see imagination as human power, they begin to question religious stories too. If you can create a ghost character or a demon character for fun, then someone long ago could have created religious spirits too. Not to deceive, but simply to explain the world. Religion does not want you to see that connection. Halloween makes the connection obvious. And there is something deeply psychological happening. When a child sees death as part of play, that child grows up less terrified of life. Religion needs people to fear death deeply so that the promise of heaven becomes appealing. If death is seen as natural and not terrifying, then heaven loses marketing value. Halloween teaches familiarity with death. Familiarity reduces fear. Reduced fear reduces religious dependence. Let us look at real-life examples. Countries that celebrate Halloween widely tend to have lower religious control over everyday life. People express thoughts more freely. They question more. They treat symbolic and supernatural topics as open areas of discussion, not restricted zones. This does not mean Halloween causes atheism, but it reflects a mindset where imagination is allowed to be free. The more imagination is free, the less religion can control. And that is the heart of why religion fears Halloween. It is not the costumes. It is not the candy. It is not the decorations. It is the message that fear can be laughed at, that death can be talked about, that imagination belongs to people, that stories are stories, that symbols are symbols, not sacred commands. Religion cannot stand environments where humans think for themselves. Halloween encourages exactly that. There is also a social lesson hidden inside Halloween. When people wear masks of creatures that are usually seen as frightening, they learn that fear can be managed. Fear can be shaped. Fear can be played with. The monster becomes just a costume. The demon becomes face paint. The ghost becomes a sheet with holes for eyes. Fear becomes something a child can laugh at. That idea is powerful. Because religion has built entire systems on the idea that fear must remain untouched. Fear must remain serious. Fear must be handled only by spiritual authorities. Halloween breaks that structure completely. And let us be honest about something. If a belief system is so fragile that a child wearing a ghost costume threatens it, then maybe the belief system was never strong in the first place. If a religion needs constant protection from costumes, from jokes, from candy, from a harmless night of play, then perhaps the fear it teaches was always artificial. Halloween exposes this. It shows how thin the wall of religious fear actually is. One night of laughter is enough to shake it. Religion senses this danger. And that is why Halloween is treated like something dark. Not because Halloween has darkness in it, but because Halloween removes the darkness that religion relies on. There is another reason Halloween is unsettling to religion, and it is very subtle, but very real. Halloween shows how quickly and easily people can create traditions without needing any divine instruction. Halloween today is shaped by movies, stories, decorations, and community creativity. Every year, new ideas come, new costumes, new symbols, new ways of celebrating. And all of this happens without any holy book telling people what to do, without any religious authority controlling the rules. This proves that humans do not need divine permission to create meaning, celebration, or ritual. Humans can build culture all by themselves. They can design moments of joy. They can shape symbolic events. They can make social traditions that bring people together. Religion wants people to believe that culture and morality and celebration come only from God. But Halloween proves the opposite. It shows that humans have always been creative beings. Humans can create festivals from imagination. Humans can bond as a community without fear and without sacred instructions. And once people realize they can create meaning on their own, they begin to question why they need religion at all. Now let us move deeper into the idea of fear and control. Religion has always understood that the most effective way to guide people is to shape their emotional reactions to life and death. When someone fears the unknown, they naturally look for someone who claims to have answers. Religion positions itself as that answer. It says, "Do not worry, we know what happens when you die. We know the invisible forces around you. We know the rules of the universe. Just follow us. Believe us. Trust us. Do not question us." Fear becomes the leash. Certainty becomes the bait. And the person becomes dependent. But Halloween teaches something different. It teaches that the unknown can be approached without fear. It teaches that the unknown can be explored with imagination. It teaches that the unknown can be handled without kneeling in front of someone. This is a quiet rebellion. It is simple, but it is powerful. Think about the symbols used in religion. Crosses, crescents, stars, statues, holy buildings, sacred clothing, sacred music. These symbols are treated as untouchable. They cannot be laughed at. They cannot be played with. They cannot be questioned. Halloween has the opposite relationship with symbols. It takes every symbol of fear and turns it into play. A vampire is no longer a cursed immortal being. It becomes a costume with plastic teeth. A demon becomes face paint and horns bought from a shop. A ghost becomes a friendly character in a cartoon. Halloween does not destroy the symbol. It reduces the fear inside the symbol. And once the fear is removed, the symbol loses its ability to control. And religion understands that very clearly. Let us think of how communities behave during Halloween. People open their doors to neighbors. They share sweets. They decorate their homes. They greet people they may not talk to during the rest of the year. It becomes a night where strangers become safe, where community feels alive, where laughter echoes in the streets. Religion often claims that without belief, society will fall apart, that without God, there is no morality. But Halloween shows the opposite. A community can be kind and generous and joyful without any religious command. People help each other simply because they want to, not because they fear punishment from the sky. Halloween demonstrates moral behavior without fear-based reward systems. That is a threat to religious moral authority. Another point is the role of imagination. When children grow up, they pass through stages of emotional development. They learn to separate fantasy from reality. They learn that monsters under the bed are not real. Halloween supports this learning. It allows children to approach their fears with creativity. A child wearing a skeleton costume does not become obsessed with death. The child becomes familiar with the concept. The idea of death becomes less shocking, less taboo. Religion often exaggerates the emotional power of death. It needs death to remain frightening, mysterious, and overwhelming, because that fear anchors belief. If death becomes familiar, then the emotional foundation of religious teaching becomes weaker. We should also talk about how religion frames anything outside itself. Religion often teaches that anything not coming from its own system must belong to something evil. It needs a clear line between sacred and sinful, safe and dangerous, pure and impure. But Halloween is complicated for religion because there is no real harm in it. There is no act of cruelty, no act of violence, no act of crime attached to it. It is simply joy and imagination. So religion must invent danger to justify rejecting it. It says it is satanic. It says it attracts dark forces. It says it will corrupt children. But none of these claims show up in reality. Children who celebrate Halloween do not grow up with broken moral structure. They simply learn how to handle fear. Adults who celebrate Halloween do not turn away from society. They simply enjoy creativity. Reality contradicts religious warnings. This contradiction weakens religious credibility. Let us look at a common claim. Many religious leaders say that Halloween promotes worship of evil. But if you observe the nature of worship, worship is about reverence, devotion, and belief in the power of the object. In Halloween, no one believes the mask has power. No one prays to the pumpkin. No one kneels in front of a costume. People are not connecting to a divine or spiritual figure. They are simply enjoying a theme. Meanwhile, religion itself uses symbols that people do kneel to. They do believe those symbols hold power. So the fear of Halloween is not because Halloween has power. It is because Halloween exposes that religious symbols only have power because people were told to believe they do. Halloween is also a moment where the border between reality and story becomes visible. When people wear costumes, they are reminded that stories are human creations. Characters are written, worlds are imagined, narratives are shaped. The supernatural is a narrative form. Religion relies on presenting its stories as absolute and eternal. But when people see how easily stories can be created, shaped, and worn, they start to understand that religious stories may have been shaped the same way. By human minds, by human needs, by culture. Halloween becomes a silent philosophy lesson. It teaches that imagined beings exist in the mind, not in the world. There is also a psychological freedom in Halloween. Religion teaches many people to feel guilt for exploring certain ideas, guilt for asking certain questions, guilt for expressing curiosity about life beyond religious boundaries. But on Halloween, curiosity becomes allowed. People can look into folklore, ghosts, myths, legends, strange creatures, ancient beliefs, and they do not feel guilt. They feel excitement. They feel wonder. Curiosity becomes enjoyable instead of sinful. And when curiosity becomes enjoyable, it does not return to silence. A curious mind does not return to chains. Now think about how religion reacts to events like Halloween. When religious leaders speak against Halloween, they almost always use fear-based language. They rarely use logical evidence. They rarely provide real harm or measurable danger. They rely on warnings. Do not participate. Do not question. Do not explore. Because if people explore, the narrative loses control. The question arises naturally. If your belief is true and strong, why would a costume threaten it? If your faith is stable, why would laughter shake it? If truth is powerful, why does it need protection? The answer is simple. A belief that needs protection from harmless fun is not strong. It is fragile. It is maintained not by truth but by fear. Halloween removes that fear. This is why Halloween terrifies religion. Because Halloween reminds us that fear can be touched. Fear can be shaped. Fear can be laughed at. Halloween returns control of the mind back to the person who owns it. And once a person realizes the mind belongs to them, not to a doctrine, the door to freedom opens slowly but permanently. Halloween is not a threat to the world. It is a threat only to systems that rely on fear-based control. And once fear collapses, the structure that sits upon it collapses as well. Another thing that Halloween reveals is that humans naturally seek celebration and connection without needing religious approval. People decorate their homes not because a scripture ordered them to, but because it brings joy. They share sweets with children not because they fear punishment, but because kindness feels good. They gather together because community is something the human mind is built to desire. Religion often claims that without God, people will fall into chaos. But Halloween night shows streets full of joy, safety, laughter, and shared enjoyment. No divine command is needed for humans to be good to one another. This challenges one of the biggest claims religion makes about morality. There is also the matter of choice. Religion usually frames moral life as something controlled by obedience. You must follow rules. You must avoid certain ideas. You must not question. But Halloween gives people the freedom to choose how they want to express themselves. They choose what character they want to be. They choose how to decorate their homes. They choose how to celebrate. Freedom is practiced in a way that does not harm anyone. This shows that choice does not lead to sin or collapse. It leads to creativity and joy. When people realize that free choice leads to positive outcomes, they start to doubt the idea that obedience is necessary for moral behavior. And finally, Halloween is powerful because it reminds us that life is temporary, but also beautiful. Many religious teachings use death as a reason to fear living. They say life is only preparation for the afterlife. They say your worth is measured by your obedience. But Halloween treats life as something to be enjoyed. It acknowledges death in a way that does not bring terror but brings reflection. It allows us to see that every life ends, and that is exactly why we should live fully. We do not need fear to make life meaningful. We need awareness. We need presence. We need each other. Halloween encourages us to live, not to hide. And that alone is something religion has always struggled to allow. So in the end, Halloween does not bring darkness into the world. It simply turns on a light and shows that the darkness was never real to begin with.